So internal control is where we stop. We have defined internal control. We said internal control is the whole system of control, financial or otherwise. Internal control is the whole system of control, financial or otherwise, established by the management in order to carry on business of an enterprise, of the enterprise in an orderly and efficient manner, and to ensure adherence to management policy, safeguard the use of assets. So what that one means is internal control, they are all the control put in place by management to safeguard the company assets, to safeguard the company policy, to guide against fraudulence, to guide against mismanagement of funds. So as we have internal control in private sector, so it also applies in public sectors too. Public sectors too, they establish internal control. They establish internal control in order to guide against mismanagement of government funds, to guide against investment of government funds, to guide against loss of government revenue. So some of those internal control established by government, they are establishment of EFCC, establishment of ICPC, establishment of Code of Conduct Bureau. So all these, another forms of internal control established by public sector, they are introduction of Treasury single account, introduction of IPPIS, Integrated Personnel Information Payroll System, public procurement system. They are internal control that government establish to guide against mismanagement of government fund, to ensure that there is adherence to management policy, to ensure that there is safeguard of public assets. So all these are established by government. Now, let's look at objective of internal control systems. One of the objectives of internal control system is to carry on the business of an enterprise. To carry on the business of the enterprise in an orderly and efficient manner. Every business, every company, they will have internal control. The reason why they have internal control is to ensure that their operation, their business is carried out in an orderly and efficient manner. Orderly and efficient manner means in accordance with the laid down guideline, laid down policy, to compliant with management policy, management law and order, management rule. We need to comply with it. That is the reason why we establish internal control. Safeguard the asset of the enterprise. How do we protect our assets? Either financial assets or tangible fixed assets. How do we protect them? It is through internal control. Internal control will give us some measures that we can adopt in protecting our assets. Example, in an internal control, it will advise us that we should have fixed asset registered, fixed asset registered, fixed assets registered, so that we can know the list of our assets, so that we can know when the assets, the lifespan of the assets is going to lapse, so that we can know the depreciation charge on those assets. Please try to mute your audio. Try to mute your audio, madam. Another features of internal control is completeness and accuracy of records. This one is talking about arithmetic accuracy. All our accounting records should be able to, we should ensure that there is arithmetic accuracy in terms of addition and subtraction, in terms of calculating the summation. we should ensure that when we have in a total, we receive an invoice and the invoice show 25 million in total. When we add the breakdown of it, it should be tallied with the 25 million. Arithmetic accuracy, validity of records. The information given to us by our supplier should be correct. The information about the nature of business, about their tax identification, about their tax history, about their capital structures, arithmetic accuracy. So those are the objectives of internal control. Features of internal control. We have number one features of internal control, record maintenance. Record maintenance. One of the features of internal control is record maintenance. Record maintenance. This one is saying that we should keep proper book and record. We should keep proper book and record. How do we ensure that we keep proper book and record? By ensuring that we have an accounting system, accounting software that will be recording our transaction on a real-time basis. We should have an accounting system that will be recording our transaction on a real-time basis. So that is on record maintenance. Another one, physical and intangible safeguard. This one is called asset safeguard. Safeguarding of our assets, either physical assets or intangible assets. How do we safeguard our assets? How do we safeguard our assets? Electronic assets like computer software can be safeguarded through password. Our physical assets, we can safeguard. Hello? Our physical assets can be safeguarded by ensuring that where the asset, please try to mute your audio. You are disturbing the class. Our physical assets can be safeguarded by ensuring that where we keep those assets is properly locked and key. Where we keep the asset is properly what? Locked and key. We should have a safe. Our cash asset should be put in a safe or vault. That is physical and intangible safeguard of assets. Segregation of duties. We should this one is talking about we should break down the responsibility and roles in an organization. The function, we should break it down. Somebody should be in charge of lodging cash to bank. Another person should be in charge of issuing receipts. Another person should be in charge of recording the sales. Segregate. If we segregate duties, it will reduce fraud. But when you give the duties of collection of cash to one person, is the one issuing receipt. At the end of the day, if he collects the cash, he's the one taking the cash to the bank. There is likelihood that teaming and lading transaction may happen in such situation. There will be mismanagement of funds if care is not taken. If we don't segregate duties, break down the duties. Don't give too much power to one officer. Don't give too much role to one officer. Segregate them. Out of segregation of duties, we have finance and account department. We have internal control department, internal audit department. It is segregation of duties. Another one, organization structure. Organization structure. Organization structure. Organization structure is saying that there should be a clear, defined reporting line. Every subordinate should have a superior that they will be reporting to. You should not be reporting to two superior at a time. You should have a clear line of responsibility, clear line of reporting. As an account finance manager, you should be reporting to the CFO. CFO will report to MD. You as a finance manager, you don't need to be reporting to CFO and also be reporting to MD at the same time. There may be conflict of interest. There should be a clear line reporting rule. Personnel, this one is called personnel control. Personnel control. You should employ the right person to the right job. The qualified person, you should employ him to the right job. Don't employ an unqualified person in a job that require a qualified accountant. Somebody that understands the job, that have experience, that is fit to the job. So when you are recruiting, don't use bias or don't use familiarity. Employ the right person to the right job. So that is personnel control. Authorization and approval. Somebody should authorize transaction. Another person should approve it. A superior, you, finance and account department, they will authorize transaction. The approval should be laid maybe in the MD office. So those are the features of internal control. What are the limitations of internal control system? What are the limitations of internal control system? Number one limitation of internal control system is there is possibility that internal control could be abused by overriding the internal control system. This one is called management override. The superior, the management, the managing director may override the internal control. He may not want to follow the process and procedure. So it's one of the limitations. We know that there's a limit in which we can make a payment in a day. The managing director, when he can say, okay, please, don't follow the limit. Let's just make this payment. We must pay this vendor now. Overriding control. Maybe in an organization, we have a policy that if a vendor don't have tax identification ID, or if an invoice, every invoice that is given to us before we pay the vendor, we must deduct withholding tax. Management can override by saying, please don't deduct withholding tax on this transaction. Just pay the full payment. Is management override. Another one, collision between staff. Internal control can be bypassed through collusion between two or more staff. They will collide together, all the staff in an organization. All this internal control you establish, they will collide together to override it, to bypass it, in order to commit fraud and mismanagement. Internal control is very expensive or costly to produce. It's another limitation of internal control. Very expensive or costly to produce. So, and there is possibility of human errors too in internal control. Possibility of human error. As a human being, we are bound to make a mistake. We are bound to make a mistake. So all these are the features of internal control system. So let's go to the next line, is Auditor General for the Federation. Auditor General. As we all know, Auditor General for the Federation is appointed by the President based on the recommendation of Federal Civil Service Commission and subject to the confirmation of the Senate. Auditor General is appointed by the President based on the recommendation of Federal Civil Service Commission and subject to the confirmation of the Senate. The salaries and allowances of Auditor General as we all know, Auditor General, these statutory allowances are charged direct in the Consolidated Revenue Fund. The statutory officer, their salaries and allowances are charged. They are charged direct in the Consolidated Revenue Fund. According to the Section 85 of the Constitution, the salaries and allowances of statutory officer. Example of statutory officer is Chief Justice of the Federation, President of Court of Appeal, Chairman of INEC, Chairman of Revenue Mobilization Allocation Commission. Auditor General for the Federation. So all these people, they are statutory officer. Why do we call them statutory officer? Because their office are independent of President office. Their office are independent of what? President office. They don't depend on president to perform their function. Do you understand? They are independent office. So their salaries and allowances are charged direct from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. In the case of removal of Auditor General can only be removed by the President, subject to approval of National Assembly. At least 2/3 of the National Assembly must approve the removal of Auditor General, which is the 2/3 of Senate. So let's look at power of Auditor General. What are the power of Auditor General? What power does Auditor General have? He has power to conduct a periodic check. What does that mean? Auditor General can conduct periodic check on any government ministry, corporation, agency. Periodic check simply means checking of the book and records periodically. It can be every 3 months. It can be every 2 months. Auditor General, one of their power is also to perform financial and regulation audits. Auditor General, they are the one that audit the financial statement of the government at the end of the year. They are the one, the government ministry, it is Auditor General that audit their financial statement. But in the case of government enterprise like NNPC, FAN, Federal Airport Commission, Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, NIMASA, Nigeria Port Authority, NPA, they are government enterprise. Auditor General does not audit their financial statement. It is the firm of external audit firm that will audit government enterprise financial statement, especially the big four, PwC, KPMG, Deloitte, S and Young. They are the ones that audit government enterprise. Why does Auditor General cannot audit government enterprise? Auditor General only audit government ministries. It cannot audit government enterprise because government enterprise, they prepare their financial statement as if they are making profit. They don't use IPSAS to prepare financial statement of government enterprise. Rather, they use IFRS, IAS. And as we all know, Auditor General is a public officer. He does not understand IFRS, IAS. He only understands IPSAS, which is International Public Sector Accounting Standard, which government ministries, parastatals used. Government enterprise don't use IPSAS. NMPC don't use IPSAS. NPA don't use IPSAS. FAN don't use IPSAS. NIMASA don't use IPSAS. They use IAS and IFRS in preparing their financial statement. So that is the reason why their financial statement can only be audited by external audit firm, not Auditor General. But before all these government enterprise can appoint external auditors, the appointment have to be based on approval of Auditor General's office. They will go and approach Auditor General's office. Office of Auditor General is the one that will provide them the list of qualified auditors that they can appoint. Value for money audit. One of the powers of Auditor General is to conduct value for money audit. Another power of Auditor General is to conduct appropriation audit. Auditor General also conducts appropriation audits, and they also conduct finance control audits. So if you are asked, what are the powers of Auditor General? Number one, they carry out periodic check on government ministry. Number two, they perform regulatory and financial audit on government financial statement. Number three, they carry out value for money audit on government operations. So they also carry out appropriation audit. Those are the powers of Auditor General. Now let's look at function of Auditor General. Function of Auditor General. Function of Auditor General. One of the functions of Auditor General is auditing and reporting in respect of treasury accounts and account of ministries. Auditing and reporting in respect of treasury account and account of ministry. Auditing and reporting in respect of what? Treasury account and account of ministry. One of their functions is also to determine and prevent fraud and error in government ministries and enterprise. To determine and prevent fraud and error in government ministries and enterprise.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, is it to determine or to detect and prevent?
Sorry, to detect and prevent fraud and error. To detect and prevent fraud and error in government ministries and enterprise. Another one, to establish a control for loss of fund. They are the one that it is function of Auditor General to put internal control system in place in government ministries and enterprise. They will be the one to establish control to guide against loss of government fund. It is Auditor General that do that. Auditor General also serve as a chairman of Audit Alarm Committee. Auditor General also serve as what? A chairman of Audit Alarm Committee. That is one of the functions of Auditor General. Another function is they also serve as an attendance or advisor to the Public Account Committee. Auditor General serve as an advisor to the what? Public Account Committee. Auditor General serve as an advisor to the Public Account Committee. So this one is also one of their functions. So this next area, 4.3, they say Auditor General duties on audit of government corporation. What are the duties of Auditor General on audit of government corporation? You know, government corporation, they are government enterprise, like I mentioned. Example of them are NNPC, NPA, NIMASA, FAN. What are the duties of Auditor General when on audit of all these government enterprise or government corporation? What are the duties of Auditor General on audit? One of their duties is Auditor General cannot audit them because they are using IAS and IFRS. They are profit-making venture. They are government enterprise. They generate revenue. They render service. They sell goods and services. They are operating as a profit-making venture. One of the duties of Auditor General is to provide them the list of external auditors registered with government. One of the duties of Auditor General is Auditor General will provide the list of external auditors registered with government. They will provide the list of external auditors registered with government. Another one is to provide guidelines on the fees payable to the external auditors of the government enterprise. They will be the one to say, NNPC, these are the audit fees that you need to pay to PwC. These are the guidelines that you have to arrive at the audit fee that you need to pay to your external auditors. Aside that, another duty is they comment on the report of external auditors. After the external auditors have finished auditing the government enterprise, external auditor will send the copies to the Auditor General. They will also send a copy to the Public Account Committee. Auditor General will comment. They will review that audit and make comments. Aside that, Auditor General has a right to carry out oversight function statements to review their record, maybe to look at their internal control system. So all these are the duties of Auditor General relating to audit of government enterprise or government corporations. Now, let's look at what factors is it going to affect, what factor will affect the independence of Auditor General. What factor will affect the independence of Auditor General? What factor will affect the independence of Auditor General? What factor will affect the independence of Auditor General? What are the factors that will affect the independence of Auditor General? Number one is the Constitution does not grant Auditor General right and responsibility to hire staff or fire any of his staff. All the staff working under Office of Auditor General, they are a civil servant. They are under Federal Civil Service Commission. Auditor General does not have their own commission that will appoint the employee that will employ the staff. The staff, those staffs working in the Office of Auditor General, they are federal civil servants. So Auditor General being the head of being the chief auditors of government, does not have right and responsibility to say, I want to discipline a staff that will result into dismissal of the staff. If any of the staff behave in the Office of Auditor General can only send a report to the Federal Civil Service Commission as regards to how disciplinary action will be taken on those staff, on that staff. He doesn't have a right to say he wants to dismiss the staff. Secondly, as relating to the promotions of the staff of Office of Auditor General being the CEO of that office does not have power as regards to the promotions of their staff. It is the Federal Civil Service Commission that will say, this staff have been promoted. So by virtue of that, Auditor General is not independent. In other countries, Auditor General is an independent agency on their own. They are not under Federal Civil Service Commission. They employ their staff, the staff of Auditor General, separate from Civil Service Commission. So one of the factors that affect the independence of Auditor General. Another factor is Auditor General is not empowered to appoint external auditor for public corporation or agency. This public sector corporation or agency, I'm referring to those public enterprise like NNPC, NPA. Auditor General does not have power to appoint external auditors for them. It is the board of those enterprises that appoint the external auditor. What Auditor General does do? What Auditor General do is to give them the list of qualified auditor. From the list of qualified auditor, the board of those agency and enterprise will appoint the Auditor General, the external auditors. So these two affect the independence of Auditor General. Another one, yes.
Can we also say this independence? Can we also say there are limitations of Auditor General?
Yes, it's a limitation. Limitation means the extent of their power.
Okay, sir.
Another one, Auditor General also lack power to execute and enforce compliance or sanction. They don't have power to sanction or enforce compliance against any officer in the ministry that engage in misappropriation of government funds. Auditor General don't have power to prosecute any staff that embezzle government money. It doesn't have power to sanction any staff that mismanage government funds. At the end of the day, if Auditor General audits ministries' financial statement, they will submit their report to Public Account Committee. Public Account Committee is a subcommittee of National Assembly. So all this affects the independence of Auditor General. Now let's look at Public Account Committee. Public Account Committee. Public Account Committee, like I said, is a subcommittee in the National Assembly, House of Rep and Senate, that is established to study and examine the report of Auditor General. The auditor to financial statements audited by Auditor General. At the end of the audit, the Auditor General will submit it to Public Account Committee. Public Account Committee will now be the one to look at the audit and make recommendations as regards to the gray area mentioned in the audit to the National Assembly. So this Public Account Committee, they are just like middleman between Auditor General and the National Assembly. If Auditor General want to relate to National Assembly, he has to relate to National Assembly through Public Account Committee. If there is any issue raised in the audited account of the government, it is the Public Account Committee that will relate the issue to the National Assembly, not the Auditor General direct. Now, let's look at function of Public Account Committee. What are the function of Public Account Committee? Function of Public Account Committee. Number one function of Public Account Committee is they deliberate on Auditor General reports. Number one function of Public Account Committee is Public Account Committee deliberates on Auditor General report. They deliberate on Auditor General report. Every year, Auditor General will submit the report to the Public Account Committee. The report based on the audited financial statement of government. So, Public Account Committee will deliberate on the report. They will look at the report. Another function, they summon account officer to appear before it. Based on the Auditor General report, if any account officer is indicted as regards to misappropriation of government funds, Public Account Committee will summon those accounting officers What do we mean by accounting officer? Accounting officer means head of government ministries and agency, permanent secretary, ministers, director general, managing director. Example, managing director of NPA is an accounting officer of NPA. There is difference between accounting officer and account officer. Accounting officer simply means head of ministries, head of agency, head of parastatals. But account officer means head of finance department, head of finance and account department, which is director of finance. But Auditor General, there's someone account officer to appear before it. If anything happened to the audited financial statements of NPA, Nigeria Port Authority, National Assembly, they will not summon the director of finance in NPA. They will summon the managing director, come and explain how this money was spent. Another one, they examine any officer on oath. They examine what? Any what? Officer on oath. They recommend to the president action to be taken against any offending officer. If through their investigation, any officer is questioned and it has been indicted that this officer mismanaged government funds, Auditor General recommends to the president any action that will be taken against them.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sorry, that's examine any officer on oath. Please, if you can explain it, sir.
If officer want to come to appear before the committee, public account committee, if any officer want to appear before the public account committee, they have to be on oath. It means they have to swear that what they will be saying before the committee is true. Do you understand?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
They report to the president their recommendation. Their recommendation from the audited financial statement. They report it to the president. And public account committee also carry out any other function assigned to them by the National Assembly. From time to time, they carry out any other function assigned to them by the National Assembly. From what? From time to time. They carry out any other function assigned to them by the National Assembly from time to time. Now, let's look at the relationship between Auditor General and Public Account Committee. What are the relationship between Auditor General and Public Account Committee? Number one is, one of the relationship that Auditor General has with Public Account Committee is Auditor General guide Public Account Committee in improper direction of his section. Because Auditor General is an accountant, he has experience in accounting. Public Account Committee, they are just a committee. The composition of those committees, we may not have an accountant in those committees. So being a technical officer, Auditor General is a technical officer in this regard. He will be the one to guide them on how they carry out the reports. Another one, they assist the committee with correct approach to the problem. They assist the committee with correct approach to the problem. So, one of the functions, one of the relationships. They provide professional advice to the committee. Auditor General provide professional advice to the committee. They provide professional advice to the committee. So we have so many of the relationship between Auditor Generals and Public Account Committee. Now, for the sake of time, let's look at weaknesses of Public Account Committee. Area of weakness to the Public Account Committee. What are those weaknesses to the Public Account Committee? What are those weaknesses to the Public Account Committee? Number one of the weaknesses is the heavy turnover of Public Account Committee membership. The heavy turnover of Public Account Committee membership. Turnover. What does that mean? You know that election in Nigeria is conducted every 4 years. Election in Nigeria is conducted every 4 years. The committee, they will not have their tenure in the office of that Public Account Committee cannot exceed 4 years. After 4 years, when we have a new government, we have another Public Account Committee. And those issues currently handling by the present committee, the new committee may not want to handle it. They may want to start with another one. So this is affecting their function. They will not want to start where those former committees stop. They will like to start afresh again. So every turnover of the Public Account Committee membership, this Public Account Committee, they are National Assembly, they are member of Senate. After 4 years, some of them will not be elected again. Another person will come and replace them. So the committee they will form another committee. The new Public Account Committee, they will not look at what the former committee have done. Let's all start from there. No, they would like to start afresh again. Another problem or weaknesses of that committee is the general lack of interest among the members of the legislative in accountability issues. We call them Public Account Committee. They should ensure that there is accountability in government. They should review the report of Auditor General. But that is not their interest. They don't have interest in accountability issue in government. At the end of the day, what they will be requesting for is, what do you have for us? Bribery and corruption. These committees, if they observe that Auditor General indict one of the head of government agency, against misappropriation of government funds. At the end of the day, if the head of the government agency appeared before the committee, we may not see the outcome of the investigation. At the end of the day, them too, they will compromise. So it's one of their weaknesses. They collect bribe too. They are corrupt. Another weaknesses of public account committee is the difficulty in distinguishing between issue of policy and of administration. They don't normally distinguish between issue that is generally an issue of policy and that one that is issue of administration. Issue of administration is generally the responsibility of management of an agency, day-to-day affair of an agency. But issue of policy, this one is regarding to the board of the agency. So that is one of the weaknesses of public account committee. Now, let's look at challenges of public sector audit in Nigeria. Challenges of public sector audit in Nigeria. What are the challenges of public sector audit in Nigeria? What challenges do we experience from public sector audit in Nigeria? Number one challenges: auditors independence. One of the challenges of Auditor General of the public sector audit in Nigeria is lack of auditors independence or inadequate auditors independence. Auditor General is not fully independent of the president because it is the president that appoints him. President can remove him, though he's subject to approval of Senate. So by this, Auditor General of the Federation for the Federation is not independent. He's a civil servant. Financial autonomy. Office of Auditor General don't have financial autonomy. They cannot spend money without approval from Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance is the one that will allocate funds to be spent by Office of Auditor General. So they don't have financial autonomy. Though the salaries and allowances of Auditor General is charged from the Consolidated Revenue Fund, but that one is not enough. Auditor General office should have financial autonomy. The budget, the spending, their recurrent expenditure, their capital expenditure should be put separate in the budget. It should not be under the Ministry of Finance. As we are having it now, Auditor General is somehow under Ministry of Finance. Belated financial statement. Belated financial statement simply means work overload. Work what? Overload. work overload. Auditor General for the Federation, sometimes they may be working on 3 years audited financial statement together. Accumulated financial statement, they may be working on those 3 years together. Take for instance, in the audited financial statement of 2016, 17, and 18 were audited together by Auditor General. That is work overload. When you are auditing 3 years audited financial statement together, the quality of the audit may be questioned, because you have so many work overload on you and you have a timeline to deliver. Because most of the government ministry, they don't prepare the financial statement as at when due. They will not accumulate the financial statements. One of the problems of public sector audit in Nigeria is ineffective of public account committee. This public account committee that's supposed to be complementing the effort of Auditor General, they are ineffective in their function. They are only for their own personal interests. They are not for the interests of the masses. At the end of the day, when they indict any officer that this officer is as an embezzle money, we will not see the outcome of the case. Inactive audit alarm committee. We have audit alarm committee that's supposed to be giving us alarm in every ministries, every government agency, every government parastatals. They're supposed to be giving us alarm or whistleblowing against mismanagement of government funds. But this committee, they are not active in their function. We don't receive report from them. They are compromised too. Inadequate personnel. Office of Auditor General, they don't have adequate qualified personnel. The number of staff in the Office of Auditor General is not enough compared to the workload that office handles. Is one of the problems. Inability to properly carry out value for money audit. Value for money audit on government assets and resources supposed to be carried out every year, but because of inadequate staff, we don't carry it out as at when due. Corruption. This one too applies. Auditor General and their staff too, they may be corrupt. When they go for audit in a ministry, they may give them bribe. So that is corruption.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Please, I have a question, sir.
Okay, what is your question?
Okay. These challenges, can we say, is it challenges of public sector audit or challenges of or challenges of accountants general of the federation? Because I'm getting it mixed up, sir.
Challenges of public sector audit in Nigeria. If you want to audit government, what are the challenges that we are facing?
Okay. Okay, because I was thinking it's the challenges that the entrepreneurs have. Okay, so noted that.
Okay. So that is what we need to say on public sector audits. That is all what we need to say on what? Public sector audits. Now, let's look at examinable question 1. Examinable question 1. Examinable question 1 said, the function of Office of Auditor General for the Federation is to audit the account of all governments, of all accounting officers, and all persons entrusted with collection, receipt, custody, issued, or payment of federal government money, or with the receipt, collection, issued, sales, transfer of delivery of any stamp, security, store, or other properties of government of the Federation. And for the certification of annual account of the government, in the light of the above, state the objective of A. State the audit objective of A. Audit objective of treasury account. B. Agency account. C. Government enterprise account. Why do we audit government treasury account? Why do we audit agency account? Government enterprise account. So, objective of audit of treasury account. Number 1 is to ensure that all money is being received as at when due. Treasury, they are in charge of receiving government money. Another objective why we audit treasury account is to ensure that all the money received is accounted for. Another one is to ensure that cash book and other relevant memorandum of account are maintained. To ensure that cash book and other relevant memorandum accounts are what? Maintained. To guide against misappropriation is another objective of auditing treasury accounts. To ensure compliance with all relevant financial legislation is also another objective. To ensure safety of government assets within each department. To confirm existence and ownership of assets. So all these are objectives why we audit treasury accounts. Objective of auditing agency accounts. Why do we audit agency accounts? To ensure compliance with all relevant legislation which set up the agency. To ensure compliance with prescription of the accounting manual. To ensure misappropriation is reduced to the barest minimum. And to safeguard the government assets in the agency. To safeguard the government assets in the agency. To confirm the existence and ownership of agency assets. Now, why do we audit government enterprise accounts? Number 1 of the reason why we audit government enterprise account, to ensure compliance with the law and regulation that establish the government enterprise. To ensure safety of the government enterprise assets. To ensure compliance with accounting manual of the government enterprise. To confirm the ownership and control of the government enterprise assets. To confirm existence and ownership of government enterprise assets. To guide against misappropriation of government enterprise funds. You can see that all these points I mentioned, they are somehow related to each other. But when you get to government enterprise, you'll be using it for government enterprise. When you get to government agency, you'll be using it. Compliance apply in government enterprise. Compliance apply with what? Government agency. Asset ownership and existence apply in government enterprise. It's also applying government agency. Misappropriation of government fund guide apply in government agency. It's also applying government enterprise accounts. So please, let's take note of that. These are the likely exam questions. These are the likely what? Exam question. Examinable question 2. Examinable question 2. State a test to be carried out when auditing revenue collectors. That is A. B part of the question. List 7 audit questionnaire to evaluate the operation of impress. What are the audit tests we need to carry out when auditing revenue collectors? One of the audit tests is review the system of revenue collection. Review the system of what? Revenue collection. Another test, we need to review the cash book of the revenue collectors. Another one, we need to cast the cash book. Casting the cash book is to check the arithmetic accuracy. Casting the cash book is to check what? Arithmetic accuracy. Another test, check the type of receipt being issued to confirm originality. You know, revenue collector is collecting government revenue. I normally issue out receipts. We check the type of the receipt being issued by that revenue collector to confirm what? Originality. Another one, review and carry out preparation of bank reconciliation. We need to carry out bank reconciliation on revenue collection cash book. Another one, we need to carry out spot check on the revenue collectors. Spot check on the revenue collectors.
Sorry, sir, Mr. Idris. What do you mean by that?
Spot check means surprise check on pay visit. You know, revenue collector normally collect government revenue. You pay the revenue collector on surprise visit. so that you can count the check, you can count the money handled by revenue collector. Surprise visit, you will not tell the revenue collector that you are coming. You just appear suddenly. As you appear, you collect his record and you confirm the cash that is with his or her, so that you know that he has not borrowed government money for his own personal use.
So we
Spot
can
check
also
means surprise check.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, go ahead.
Another one is to review the reports of internal and external auditor as regards to the revenue collectors unit. So all these are the tests that we need to carry out when we are auditing revenue collectors. B part of the question said, what are those internal control questionnaire that we can design for an impress account? An impress, what are the internal control questionnaire that we can use for an impress account? Internal control questionnaire that can be used for an impress account. Number one, will a bank account be open for an impress over 20,000? You know, it's a questionnaire. It will be in form of question. Was the cash book properly kept? Was the cash book properly kept? Were vouchers properly kept and classified? Were vouchers properly kept and what? Classified. Was the impress account correctly accounted for the first time at the time of check? Was the impress account correctly accounted for at the time of your check? Was the LPO register kept by an impress holder? Were receipts issued for unspent cash return?
That is what's the meaning of LPO?
Local purchase order.
Oh, sir.
Notification made to appropriate head and sub-head of expenditures, where classification made to appropriate head and what? Sub-head of expenditures. So these are the question 2. Examinable question 3. Examinable question 3 says, differentiate between primary and secondary objective of carrying out audit in public sector. B, what is internal control? B, Roman figure 1. B, Roman figure 2, outline the features of internal control. The primary objective of an audit is to determine whether the financial statement is what? Is prepared on true and is to determine fraud, error, omission. Of the secondary objective, prevention of fraud, error, and omission. Primary objective is to determine whether that financial statement is prepared on what? On true and fair view. Secondary objective, to determine fraud, error, and omission. Prevention of fraud, error, and omission. Determine whether there is material misstatement too. Is secondary objective. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is all what we have in public sector audit. So we started public sector audit last week, and we discussed a lot in public sector audit. We talk about type of audit, type of public sector audit. We talk about benefit of audit planning. We talk about factors responsible for effective audits. So we talk about objective of audit. We talk about regulatory framework of public audit. We mention type of audit. Under type of audit, we discuss value for money audit, which is based on 3 E's: efficiency, economy, effective. We talk about steps involved in carrying out value for money audit. Aside that, we also talk about internal control audit, internal audit. We talk about relationship between internal audit and external audit. We talk about factors that will be considered by external auditor before relying on internal audit work. So we have done a lot in public sector audit. Please try to take note of it. So I will advise us, we have a note that we can be using it to jot all the main points in each of the topics, so that it will be very easy for us. So any question, any issue, any observation? Any question?